In 2025, China is set to implement sweeping restrictions on international travel, including a list of countries where Chinese citizens will be prohibited from visiting. While it might seem unprecedented, this move is part of China's growing geopolitical strategy and its efforts to assert influence globally. In this video, we'll explore the 10 countries that are reportedly on China's ban list and the reasons behind these decisions.
1. United States.
For several years, relations between China and the United States have been deteriorating, primarily due to trade disputes, technological rivalry, and differences in global governance. The US has long been a target of Chinese diplomatic ire, especially after measures such as tariffs, restrictions on Chinese tech giants like Huawei, and sanctions against Chinese officials. In response, China has started limiting travel to the US as part of a broader pushback against American foreign policy. The United States' support for Taiwan, Hong Kong, and human rights issues in Xinjiang have all added fuel to the fire, contributing to the strained bilateral relationship.
2. India.
China and India share a complex relationship, marked by both cooperation and intense rivalry. The two countries have a long-standing border dispute, which has flared up into violent clashes, most notably in the Galwan Valley in 2020. Since then, diplomatic relations have been at a low point, with India taking a more hardline stance on China, particularly with regard to security and defense issues. India has also become more vocal in its criticism of China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), which India perceives as a form of economic expansionism.
In retaliation. 3. Japan.
China and Japan have a long and complicated history. From the Second Sino-Japanese War to territorial disputes over islands in the East China Sea, the two countries have struggled to find common ground. In recent years, Japan's increasingly close ties with the United States and its growing defense partnerships with countries like Australia have put Japan squarely in China's crosshairs. Moreover, Japan has been vocal about issues related to China's human rights record, particularly regarding the treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang and the crackdown on pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong.
4. Australia.
China's relationship with Australia has taken a nosedive in recent years, especially following Australia's calls for an independent inquiry into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Australian government's strong stance on human rights issues, including its criticism of China's actions in Hong Kong and Xinjiang, has made it a target of China's ire. Additionally, Australia's close ties with the United States and its participation in defense agreements like the AUKUS Pact have angered Beijing. As a result, China has gradually restricted travel to Australia as part of its diplomatic pressure tactics.
5. United Kingdom.
The United Kingdom's relationship with China has been strained for some time. Following the handover of Hong Kong to China in 1997, Britain's commitment to Hong Kong's autonomy became a major point of contention. As China moved to impose a national security law on Hong Kong in 2020, the UK responded by offering citizenship to Hong Kong residents, further souring relations. Additionally, the UK's criticism of China's human rights record and its support for international coalitions that challenge China's growing influence in global institutions have only deepened the divide.
6. Canada.
China and Canada's relationship has been rocky since the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou in 2018 at the request of the United States. In retaliation, China detained two Canadian citizens, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, in what many saw as an attempt to use them as bargaining chips. The diplomatic tensions that followed have led to a significant decline in relations. Canada has been vocal about issues like Hong Kong's autonomy and the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, which has only worsened the diplomatic rift. As China continues to assert itself globally.
7. South Korea.
While China and South Korea have generally enjoyed a cooperative relationship, recent years have seen a growing rivalry, particularly in the realms of technology and defense. South Korea's decision to install the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense (THAAD) missile system, which China views as a threat to its security, was a major turning point. Additionally, South Korea's increasing alignment with the United States and its role in the Indo-Pacific region have been areas of concern for Beijing.
8. France.
France, while not as contentious as some of the other countries on this list, has still found itself in the crosshairs of China's growing assertiveness. France has been critical of China's human rights record, particularly in relation to Tibet and Xinjiang, and has supported various international initiatives aimed at holding China accountable for its actions. As part of its broader foreign policy, France has also been critical of China's Belt and Road Initiative and its growing influence in Africa. These criticisms, coupled with France's strong alliance with the US and the EU's stance on China, could see it becoming a target of Chinese travel restrictions in the near future.
9. Germany.
Germany, as the economic powerhouse of Europe, has a complex relationship with China. On one hand, it is an important trading partner, but on the other hand, Germany has been increasingly vocal about issues such as human rights, climate change, and China's behavior in the South China Sea. Germany has been critical of China's handling of Hong Kong and its treatment of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang, which has drawn the ire of the Chinese government. Germany's influence in the European Union, and its strong ties to the US and NATO, further complicate its relationship with China.
10. Russia.
While China and Russia have maintained a close partnership in recent years, particularly in the face of growing Western sanctions, there are still areas of tension between the two nations. Disputes over trade, energy resources, and regional influence have occasionally put a strain on the relationship. Russia's increasing reliance on China for economic support, as well as its growing authoritarian tendencies, have led to concerns in Beijing about its long-term strategic goals. As a result, there is speculation that China may begin restricting travel to Russia as part of its broader foreign policy objectives in 2025.
Conclusion.
As we've seen, the 10 countries China is expected to ban travel to in 2025 represent a mixture of geopolitical, economic, and human rights-related issues. From the United States and India to countries in Europe and beyond, China's travel restrictions are part of its growing assertiveness on the world stage. Whether these bans will have long-term effects on diplomatic relations remains to be seen, but one thing is clear.